Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to welcome you to today's web conference, Dynamics 365 for Field Service, Scheduling plus RSO, presented by David Clark, Program Manager 2, Fei Q, Program Manager 2, and Vinay Nalam, Program Manager 2. My name is Leslie. I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this web conference through Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your PC speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. Participation in today's meeting indicates your consent to being included in the meeting recording. Access to the web conference recording will be delivered via email within 48 hours post-conference. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, you can turn on the Q&A panel by selecting the question mark icon located in the upper right corner of your screen. And now on to the presentation. David, you have the floor.
Awesome. Thanks, Leslie. So, hey, everyone. I am Dave Clark. Thanks for joining. I lead technical readiness for Dynamics Field Service. And today we are going to talk about and show the new features for field service scheduling and resource scheduling optimization, which is referred to as RSO. Like Leslie said, I'm here with Vinay Nalam, who is the product manager for field service scheduling, which is a solution called Universal Resource Scheduling, and Fei Q, who runs resource scheduling optimization. Throughout the presentation, if you have any questions, just submit them in the meeting chat window, and we will answer them by the end of the call. Some of the things you'll see today have not been released yet. So if so, please do not share that information. So all of this is under NDA. So before we jump into the new capabilities, let's quickly go through the product trends that are behind them. So first and foremost, there has been a big emphasis on performance and overall quality of the field service solution. And each release, things like schedule board load times and responsiveness when dragging bookings improves, and this makes it super important to upgrade to the latest solution. Additionally, we are beginning to blur the distinction between the different scheduling methods. And by this, I mean when a dispatcher is manually scheduling, they should have an easy pathway to get to the schedule assistant if desired. And we are closing the gap between what the schedule assistant does and what automated scheduling does, or rather what they both consider. With every feature, we are always looking to reduce the number of steps and number of clicks to use the feature. And when it comes to setting up the features, we're also trying to make it more easy, more simple, and in some cases, more automatic. And finally, when you look at resource scheduling optimization, Fei and her team are continually adding more constraints and objectives, which makes the RSO automated scheduling engine more powerful and able to handle more customer requirements. So with that, let's start with Universal Resource Scheduling. 3 important new features are travel time updates when manually scheduling, quick scheduling, and Vinay is also going to give a sneak peek of the new multi-day experience on the schedule board. So let's start with travel time updates for manual scheduling. What this is when you manually schedule a booking on the schedule board, travel time will be added to that booking. This is also true when you rearrange bookings on the schedule board. And the purpose of this is it helps dispatchers make smarter scheduling decisions even when they're not choosing to use Schedule Assistant or RSO. And this goes back to the idea that we're trying to blur the distinction between the scheduling methods. And a feature like this is most appropriate for our dispatcher roles. So this particular feature, which Vinay is going to show, is available today with field service. It started with field service 8.6, and the current version is 8.7. 2 notes. 1, this only applies to the hourly view of the schedule board, and we actually already have documentation available for it, and the link is there. Next important feature that we are going to show is quick scheduling. So often also called QuickBook, what it is when you're on a work order or requirement and you select book, a side panel will appear on the side of the form and it'll display available time slots. And then after choosing a time slot, the system will go ahead and select the best and most appropriate resource. So the purpose of this is it's a quicker and easier way to schedule jobs, but at the same time getting the power of the schedule assistant logic that will be working behind the scenes. This is really important for organizations who, let's say, have uniform resources, and rather than trying to find the actual best resource, they really just want to know, are resources available, and then select a time slot to schedule it to them. And this is also good for roles where scheduling is a smaller part of their role. An example would be customer service reps. So this will be available in some capacity with Field Service 8.7, which is today, and it'll be available soon in the next release for on-site work orders. And we should have documentation for that this week or next. And then lastly, Vinay is going to give us a sneak peek about what's a feature that's coming out for the next release, which is the multi-day experience. And this is a major user interface improvement to the days view of the schedule board. It'll help dispatchers understand how a resource's time is spent across a larger time range. Those who are familiar with the days view now, it really just shows utilization. But with the new update, you'll be able to dive into that utilization for a particular resource and understand what exactly they're working on throughout that time and be able to take certain actions and do different bookings. So this is important for dispatchers, but it's also important for resource managers and capacity planners. So look for that soon, and Vinay will have more details for us. So a quick update on resource scheduling optimization. Fei-Fei is going to provide us more details. But you're going to hear her talk about a lot of different things, and I just want to level set about some of the terminology. So first and foremost, when we talk about RSO, we're talking about a paid add-on for field service that optimizes routes and schedules for requirements, whether it's a work order, a case, or a different entity and resources. Fei-Fei is going to talk a lot about new constraints. And a constraint in terms of RSO is an attribute that is used to match requirements and resources. So an example is a requirement can only be scheduled to resources with skill A. In this case, skills are a constraint because RSO is constrained by the resources it can schedule it to. Fei-Fei is also going to talk about new objectives for RSO. And an objective is what the RSO aims to optimize. So the most simple example is travel time. Travel time can be an objective, and it can be an objective because RSO will try to minimize overall travel time. Now, RSO can have multiple objectives at one time, and this creates a trade-off. So let's say we want to minimize travel time, but we also want to make sure that high priority jobs are scheduled. So in this case, we need to weigh what's more important. Is it more important to minimize travel time, or is it more important to have high priority work scheduled? And then lastly, Fei-Fei is going to talk about something called range duration. And range duration is the time period for which RSO optimizes schedules for. So if I set range duration to 1 day, that means RSO will only schedule jobs within that 1 day time slot, and it'll optimize that time slot. However, if there's more jobs that can fit in that 1 day time slot, RSO will simply leave them out for the next optimization run. So with that, what I would like to do is hand it off to Vinay, who is actually going to walk us through a demo of the new universal resource scheduling features, such as travel time updates and quick scheduling.
I'm starting to share my screen. Let's get started with our demo.
Okay, one moment. I can see your screen now.
Awesome. So As Dave explained, some of the new features that resource scheduling has released recently, travel time updates is one of them, where it provides capabilities for the schedulers and the dispatchers to know more accurate travel time for their technicians to their subsequent work or requirements that are booked. So let's take a quick look into this. Here is a scenario where we have a scheduler who is trying to schedule work for installation that is happening in Tacoma and a service repair that is needed in Bellevue. So usually the scheduler's go-to place is the schedule board, where it provides a suite of scheduling capabilities. Once the schedule board loads, we could quickly see the requirement panel in the bottom, which shows the open requirements that needs to be scheduled. So we could see the two work requirements, which are basically service repair in Bellevue and installation in Tacoma. Before this feature, when we drag and drop a requirement onto the schedule board, it schedules the requirement against a specific resource, but it doesn't, it, it never used to show a travel time, though the requirement is an on-site requirement. But with the travel time updates enabled on your organization, you'd be able to drag and drop your requirement. Let's say the service repair appointment that you need to make in Bellevue. I'm going to do it against Edgar. Once you drop your requirement, it's going to schedule that work for Edgar and show a travel time quickly, which is 17 minutes. This is one of the new capabilities that the travel time updates brings to your organization. Now Edgar is based out of Seattle and he's traveling to Bellevue, which is 17 minutes away from his work location. Well and good. But now the scheduler is also going to schedule other work on the same day for Edgar. So he's going to send Edgar to an installation in Tacoma. Now I'm going to drag and drop to a specific time on the schedule board. Now you see that the travel time of 38 minutes is shown to Tacoma, and from Tacoma location, the technician needs to travel back to Bellevue once his work is completed. Now you see that the travel time has increased from 17 minutes to 41 minutes to reflect the change in his start location. It was initially calculating his travel time as from Seattle to Bellevue, but once a new requirement is scheduled or a work order is scheduled for him, it's going to reflect the change and update the travel time for the subsequent bookings for him. So travel time updates is a really cool, handy feature. The other capability that it also offers is when you drag and drop an existing booking to a different resource who's based out of a different location. Let's say Edgar was based out of Seattle, but Ephraim is based out of Redmond. Now, when I drag and drop the Bellevue requirement to Ephraim, his travel time got updated to 12 minutes. So that's how this feature is going to take care of the travel times from the start location of the technician based on his prior start location rather than his actual work location start for the whole day. And you could find more details on how to enable it and which the prerequisites on this organization. You could find the documentation that is provided on the slide deck that Dave has shared, and which would be shared post the presentation. Now, quickly moving on to our next demo, which is on quick scheduling. Now, once you go to work orders, most of you guys who are used to quick scheduling, you're used to the schedule assistant experience in universal resource scheduling. Once you check a work order, you'd be able to click book and it opens a schedule assistant experience. But with the quick scheduling enabled on your organization, it provides a capability where a quick panel would be opened up, and within minimal clicks, you'd be able to see the available time slots and book a time slot for the work order. Here again at your scenario, now you as a scheduler, you're trying to book a technician against this work order, and when you click on book with the quick scheduling feature enabled, you would be able to see a flyout panel that comes out. And it quickly shows the results of the different times in which the time recommendations are available, and the resources that are available for that. Now, there are a couple of things that I would want to talk about when it comes to quick scheduling. Quick scheduling supports both single requirements and requirement groups, and different types of requirements based on the location, which is work location is equals to on-site or location agnostic or facility. All of them are going to be supported in field service update of V8.8. Now I'm using a demo org which is already on field service version 8.8, and that's why you'll be able to see quick booking supporting the on-site requirements and requirement groups as well. So now we are back on a work order which has a single requirement behind it, and I click on book. As I already shared, it opens up the quick panel, and it keeps you in the context of the work order. It doesn't open a new window, but a quick booking panel up here. A few things to notice up here is a calendar which shows the availability of the technicians. If a date is not grayed out, it is a day where you have an available time slot. You can quickly click and check the time slots underneath them. Once you select a day, you'll be able to see the time slots underneath them. Once you can select the time slot up here and then quickly book on the appointment up here. Or if you are trying to see a specific resource availability, you could click on the resources available. You could see the available resources at the point of time along with the travel information. You could choose a resource who could fit in this work order, click on it, and then make a booking quickly. Once you click book, a booking is generated and the summary information is shown on the confirmation page. And your booking is created in as less as 2 to 3 clicks. Now, this is a single requirement that is backing up this work order. But if you have a work order which has a multi-resource requirement, you could quickly come up here. This is one of those work orders which has a primary instance type that has an associated requirement group to it. You'd be able to click on book. And that opens up the quick scheduling panel up here. And just like the way it was shown for the single requirements, you'd be able to see the time slots that are available. You could, if you don't care about who needs to work on this work order, you could simply choose the time slot, and that enables a book button, and then you could go ahead and make a booking. Or if you want to see the specific resources working on this, you could select on the resources icon, and then that shows the combination of resources that are going to work on this work order. At the same time, if you have a specific resource or a technician in mind, you could always choose them and then go use them as a filter. You can select Brady up here, and then that modifies the suggestions beneath that, and it would show the suggestions. Based on my selection up here, Brady doesn't fit into the requirement selection, so it would not show any time slots. Now coming back again. Now, based on the recommendations or the time slots given up here, you could choose one of them. But in case you have to play around with more filters that the Schedule Assistant offers, you could click on the Open Schedule Assistant experience. That opens up the usual Schedule Assistant experience that you're used to, and choose a time slot or a combination of the resources. or at the same time, you could also expand on all the known capabilities on the schedule assistant to make changes and then make a booking up from there. So you don't have to stick on or rely just on the quick scheduling, but in case you need more filters to play around with. So that's about quick scheduling, and the configuration for needed for enabling quick scheduling can be found in the documentation. It is also pretty simple to enable on any entity that you need to schedule. You could go to settings. Actually, that's under resources. Go into the booking setup metadata and open the work order entity for booking setup metadata. And underneath booking setup metadata, you'd be able to see a field called enable quick book. You could turn it on to enable quick scheduling experience on the schedulable entity that you're working on. So that quickly brings us to the end of the demo for travel time updates and quick scheduling. Dave, could you start sharing the slide deck so that we could show the new designs on the multi-day scheduling experience?
Yes.
So while Dave is starting to share his screen and the deck, we've seen a lot of feedback from the market asking for a better multi-day scheduling experience. We are talking about the days view, weeks view. We are talking about the days view, weeks view, and the months view. So today we see there are certain differences between what we could see on the hourly view on the schedule board and the days, weeks, and months views on the schedule board. Essentially, the hourly boards show more granular information in terms of the bookings. So you can see the actual bookings that are made in the hourly view. Whereas when it comes to the days view, the current design shows the aggregated information of the underlying bookings. It kind of shows the availability of the technicians, and once you need the booking information, you could expand each of the resources and see the underlying bookings for those resources. There are a lot of good things that each of these views bring. However, there are a few gaps between these two views. Based on the feedback that we got from the market and from every one of you guys, we see that there is a necessity to bring in the to reduce the gaps between the hourly view and multi-day views. There are certain things that you could do on hourly views, like defining booking rules, changing the booking template, and making bookings on the uh, hourly boards, which is much easier. Whereas in the multi-day views, it's less actionable today. So we are trying to bridge this gap by working on a new design for multi-day scheduling experience. Now, everything that I'm going to show on multi-day scheduling experience are not yet released. These are pretty much in the lab where we are working on the designs, and we are iterating the designs every day to get more feedback and uh, make it more efficient and reduce the gap between the hourly boards and multi-day boards. So in any case, if you have any feedback, please feel free to reach out to us, and we'd be happy to initiate a conversation on the multi-day scheduling experience and drive the feedback back into the design of this product and make it more exciting. So here are a few things that I would want to talk about on this slide, which is basically the new view switcher, which is available on availability view and the bookings view. And there is a little toggle button up here, which is show time, which is actually going to snap the timeline to the current day bookings. And the few other things that we are going to also show in this slide deck is basically agenda view and calendar view. Now on this screen, you see that there is a snapshot of availability of the technicians. as a scheduler or a project manager or a resource manager, when you're trying to schedule something, some work against a resource, you need to understand the snapshot of how they are booked, especially when the work that you're trying to schedule is multi-day. Now, when you land on the days view, the default view would be availability, where it shows a heat map of the availability of each of those technicians. Now, uh, and then if we move on to the next slide where we show the bookings view, where once you click on the bookings, it shows the underlying granular bookings for each of those resources. Now, this is where we are changing our design to show the granular information of a multi-day booking, like on the project that you see for the first resource on the board, which is deploying server, which is 25 hours of work spanning across 5 different days. Now that's one big booking, but the individual booking details are being shown for in terms of the hours. So the 5 hours, the breakdown of the total duration is shown by the duration on each of those days. And and it also gives a few other things, like there is an overflow button, which is the drop down on Tuesday the 13th for the first resource, where you see there is a breadcrumb and then there is a plus one more sign. If the number of bookings are beyond a certain limit, then we would be showing the bookings on that overflow menu. And there are also small little squares on the bottom right corners of each of those cells. That is nothing but uh, keeping the information that we got from the availability view. It is pretty much the heat map that we've got in the availability view, and preserving that information on the screen to make it more informational and actionable for you. And you would not need to switch between availability and bookings view just to see the availability information for that resource. And this would be configurable. We are working on a design to show a number or a percentage against these squares to signify how much this resource is booked on that specific day. Now let's go into a scenario, moving to the next slide where we are going to show a specific scenario. Like you are the project manager or the scheduler who is trying to find a resource who can take up a work of 15 hours, which is spanning across 5 different days. Now, you see that one of our resources, Ms. Piggy, on Wednesday the 14th has 5 hours of availability, but it does not give any information on the booking, on the bookings on that specific day. So once you click on it, that's when we are going to show a flyout panel, which is called Agenda View, which pretty much aligns with the agenda that is shown on Outlook, and it works similar to what Outlook does. It's going to show a timeline view of all the bookings on that specific day, and it is going to show the bookings that are already existing on that specific day. Now, the same agenda view could also be shown on the bookings view. If we move on to the next slide, where we see that we switched our views from availability to bookings, but as we've selected that specific day on availability view, it's going to keep that in context and show the slider on the same day. But now you can invoke the agenda view on bookings view by clicking on the small square on the bottom right corner, which is going to show their availability in terms of the bookings on that specific day. Now, this is how the availability is shown in the new designs, but when it comes to yeah, when it comes to the next slide, which is basically showing the calendar numbering, we've seen a lot of people asking for the calendar week numbering, especially customers based out of Europe region. So we are working on making calendar week a configurable option on top of our schedule boards in the new design, where you'd be able to configure calendar week numbering on the weeks, and the defaults would align with the defaults of the Outlook experience on how Outlook considers week as week number one. And the designs are in discussion for making this configuration customizable for customers on choosing custom week number one for their experience. let's move on to our next slide, where we are going to walk you through a scenario where we are going to drag and drop a requirement on a multi-day scheduling experience. Now, as a scheduler, you're trying to schedule a multi-day requirement of 15 hours, which is actually between 5 different days, 5 different working days. Now, you could quickly drag the requirement. As you keep dragging, you see that there is a shadow of the booking that is being shown, and you could drop it onto a resource whom you are trying to schedule. Now, once you bring the requirement to this resource that you're trying to schedule, it would highlight the row that is in context and show their availability in context. And then once you drop it on that resource, you would see that a flying panel, a panel that opens up, which is create resource booking panel. Now you see that the booking is in a proposed or a preview state where we have defaulted the booking method to break down the 15 hours of work to 6 hours on Monday, 4 hours on Tuesday, 3 hours on Wednesday, based on the default booking method of front loading the hours. So the schedule board is intelligent enough to figure out the working hours for that resource, and it is trying to front load the hours that are available for scheduling that specific resource, and it broke down the work into different days. On Thursday the 15th, you could see that the resource has no availability, so 0 hours is being shown in the with an intent of keeping the continuity on these multi-day bookings so that it is easier for the users to visualize the multi-day bookings spanning over a specific set of days, though though the schedule board is not able to find any available hours on Thursday the 15th or Friday the 16th. So you would so once you see that the preview booking is good for you, you could go ahead and click on book. Once you click on book, that is going to create your booking, and that's when the booking is confirmed and converted from a preview booking into an actual booking with a specific booking state that you had used in your creation of the booking. So that's how easier it would be for you to drop a booking and drop a requirement and schedule it. We did a few things. We have not relied on hourly bookings. We just used the daily views to schedule this resource up here. Moving on to the next slide, we see the slide with the calendar numbering, again emphasizing on how we could use the calendar numbering on multi-day experience. We are going to keep the calendar week numbering on the weekly views and other views as well, like the daily views, and we are going to make it configurable as well. Moving on to the next slide, which brings us to the end of the slides on the new sneak peek for multi-day scheduling experience. And now Feifei is going to talk about resource scheduling optimization and some of the exciting updates that we have pushed recently. Feifei, you could take it up now.
Yep, thanks, Vinay. Good morning, everyone. My name is Feifei Chiu. I'm the program manager for resource scheduling optimization. And so in last few months, we have released RSO 3.0 and the 3.0 update release. So in next 15 minutes, I will quickly walk through some of new feature and capability we released recently and also upcoming new features. So as you guys know or played around RSO, and you know, one of the critical components for RSO is how to define the right optimization goal, including constraint and goal to best achieve business optimization result. And so that's a core part, and we have been hearing customer care about different scheduling rule and like cost, preferred resources, and skill level, and all the different things, not a unique set of rule. So from product perspective, we have been enabling more objective and constraint to achieve the different business need. In RSO, 3.0, we have released new objective called maximize preferred resources and best matching skill level. Actually, in the middle, I can show you really quick in the system as well. Okay, as you can see, in my environment, this is my optimization goal. I call overnight schedule. I pick multiple objectives and it has a ranking. I also pick the preferred resources and also best matching skill level. So what does maximize preferred resource do? If you define requirement, on the requirement side, you can specify multiple attributes. Resource preference is one thing you can specify. Like right now, for my requirement, I define 2 resources as preferred. And when I run RSO and pick this as one of my objectives, system will try to schedule this requirement to one of the preferred resources. And how hard system will try depending on the order and also engine effort level. So system will leaning give the requirement to the resource, but it's not 100% guaranteeing give to the resource depending on how other objective score goes. So that's basically preferred resources. The second objective we enable in 3.0 release is best matching skill level. On the same requirement, as you can see, for this requirement to fulfill this, I need someone to have assembly repair skill and also I prefer proficient. And underlying proficient reading value is a numeric number, and right here as number 3. So before, if you configure skill matching as constraint, RSO we only look, okay, if this resource has the skill or not, it's a binary. But right now, with this objective, RSO we try to balance lower qualified people or higher qualified people. And we call best matching. And what that means is, on the requirement side, we are asking a people with assembly repair level 3. And in the backend system, we'll try to evaluate all the rating level from the resource side. For example, if we have rating level from 1 to 10, and all my resources have different rating value, and on my requirements that I'm asking someone with rating level 4, so system will schedule the resource with most close rating level. In this case, we number 4. If you can see, resource with rating level number 4 get the highest score. And instead of schedule overqualified people, people with much higher rating level actually get a bit less score. The intention is to utilize the best fit people. We are not going to use overqualified people. We can leave these people for other requirements. And in general, overqualified people will get higher score than lower qualified people. You can see from this score distribution a little bit. And also we have this blog post to describe more in details. You can take a look. All right, coming back. So the other feature we enable for RSO 3.0 is handle conflict. So in many cases, we have been people asking questions. How does RSO handle conflict? What if I have multiple RSO optimization run at the same time, and what the result looks like? And what if during optimization schedule, someone like dispatcher or technician modify the booking on their site, and how RSO override the menu changes? With this change, RSO it becomes smarter. So basically, when you run RSO schedule and during optimization, if anyone make any changes before the feature, RSO will fail. Basically, you have to rerun again. And with this feature right now, if I run RSO and 7 modified changes in the middle, and what RSO shows, you can see optimization status shows completed with conflict. if you open the optimization request, it shows you more information. To make it easier, I already opened the form. So in the optimization request, the booking subgrid, you're able to see which specific booking or requirement being modified. You can see the status we leave as simulation, and there is a little conflict icon show you, okay, this is the record being conflicted. And if you go all the way down, operation details, however, you're able to see what specific information being modified by user and what's the new value, what's the old value, and you can easily compare. And then you can make a decision. So from here, if you feel, okay, system make a better decision, then you can just go ahead, apply changes. Basically at this moment, system will use RSO changes, override human changes. Or you can leave as this one, you can keep the human changes. Basically, you have the flexibility to make decision who win the battle during the conflict, and you can apply changes or discard conflict at the moment. So this helps a lot, especially when RSO run during the night, takes a longer time, like 1 hour if you have a lot of data and you don't want to completely run RSO again, and will save you a lot of time and also make the decision making more smarter. All right. So moving on, the RSO 3.0 update release, and we released a couple weeks ago, and one of the feature we enable is we allow you schedule resource capacity more than one. And how we define capacity is more than one. If you're familiar with resource calendar, you can specify the working hour. You can also specify the capacity for the particular time slot. So let's open the working hour calendar, take a look. Already a bit slow. Okay, so this is the working hour calendar, and I can set a new one. So by default, it shows 9 to 5, and you can click store capacity. The system will show the capacity. You can specify 1 or 2. And the reason you want to specify capacity is think about some scenario. You have senior engineer who work much more productive and more like twice productive as junior engineer. Or you have some type of work you allow people to work at the same time, like repair bicycle. A senior engineer can repair 2 bicycles at the same time, while junior engineer can only repair 1 bicycle at a time. In this case, you can use capacity to specify the efficiency level for the resource. And after you specify the capacity, and you can run RSO, RSO will take that capacity into consideration. So I pre-run my RSO already. If you look at my schedule board, I have a guy called Superman. Absolutely, he is much powerful and much more productive. His capacity is 2. And after I run RSO optimization, as you can see, RSO gave double work to Superman because he is super powerful, can work twice work as normal schedule, as normal resources. So I think of this is empower a lot of scenarios. You can work multiple type of work, especially the facility scheduling, and people work the body shop and repair multiple work at the same time. Or in the cost center, you have a customer representative and they can work on multiple tickets at the same time, and you can leverage this feature to handle resource efficiency. All right. The other feature we enable is cancel optimization. This is a small enhancement, but actually will bring a lot of convenience when people run RSO. And sometimes when you run RSO and for some reason either system glitch or the Azure resource is not quite responding or other things happening in the system, and optimization will just keep optimizing forever, won't finish. Basically, it's stuck somewhere. And what we told people before is you can reset the schedule, and meaning reset the schedule to unpublish and publish again will take multiple steps and also consume a little bit of time. So what you can do right now, if your optimization in optimizing or submitted status, and you can cancel anytime and without interrupt the whole optimization schedule. This simplify your kind of maintenance schedule or administration task. As you can see, it got canceled. And we also enable a feature to empower dispatcher or RSO administrator define much more flexible schedule for intraday scheduling scenario. So let me open this one. Okay, so as you can see in my environment, I have multiple schedules, some schedule overnight, and my overnight schedule will run 1 a.m. in the middle of night schedule for next day. But sometimes in the middle of day, I have emergency come in the system and I want to re-optimize. In this case, instead of optimize for the entire day, and you have the flexibility to optimize only for like next 6 hours. And I don't want system change the schedule for next day, which not necessarily. Number one, it may take a bit longer time. Number two, we may have resource manager do other planning for the tomorrow's schedule. So you can leverage range duration, and we allow you to put whatever number you like hour or minutes, instead of minimum 24 hours. So that's the enhancement we did. And also we have improved a lot user experiences, including RSO setup experiences. For example, when you define objective or you want to adjust the ranking, and before you have to open the form, change the order on the form and close it, and with this move up or move down arrow, you can easily adjust the ranking. You can see you can, I want to bump up the preferred results a little bit more. I keep moving up and goes to number 3. So this is one. And also for some people try to demo or quickly set up RSO, after you deploy RSO, you have to do a lot of configuration, setup schedule and parameter. And right now with the new RSO release, when you enable RSO, we are going to set up some sample RSO optimization schedule, like optimize next day with a sample optimization scope and more sample default optimization goal. Basically, you can just click publish and run RSO schedule, try to do the demo or see the result. So much convenient, easier. So that's our few feature we enabled for the past 2 RSO release. And for the next release, and RSO team is focusing on enable more constraint and objective, as well as David mentioned, we try to empower the organization to have more flexibility, configure their schedule. And number one constraint is resource role matching. Okay, let me bring up the slide here back. Okay, so the upcoming release is resource role matching, and so to enable this, you can specify the role on the requirement set and also on the resource set RSO will do the match. And this is one ask from the market. And also to enable this, we are bridging the gap between manual scheduling and RSO automatic scheduling. And we hear people saying, okay, why RSO is not considered this? Why manual scheduling is not considered this, which RSO can consider. So with this initiative, we try to bridge the gap between 2 solutions and make people feel like it's one scheduling solution, no matter you use manual or use automation. The next constraint is about enable mandatory results. So we talk about we use preferred results as objective, but sometimes you want also schedule to that person or otherwise don't schedule at all. And with this constraint, you can achieve this. And also travel limit between booking. And we hear people saying some organizations, they have policy, don't want sending technician far away and like more than 2 hours, or when some technician in the physical injury, they cannot drive too long on the road, maybe only 30 minutes. So we try enable this travel limit constraint and to achieve this scenario as well. So that's a quick overview about RSO new feature we released in the market and also the upcoming feature. And with that, I will hand over back to David to cover the rest.
Awesome. Thanks, Feifei. A lot of great new features. So with that is the end of our presentation. I want to make sure that we're handling or answering all of the questions. I do see one question here from Wayne Walton, and he wants to know if RSO is going to support predicted traffic, which I think he means is using historical traffic to understand travel times. Feifei, do you know if that's something that we have committed to at this point or is still in discussion?
So right now, RSO out of the box we call being distance metrics. As you guys may know, you can change to other map provider like Google, and we call being return average travel time. And but the other note, on schedule board, and Renee, correct me if I'm wrong. So you can check the real-time location of the technician, and when you're scheduling a work, you can look for the close technician if technician enable the GPS tracking on the mobile side. And talk to the historical traffic, RSO doesn't consider today, but yes, that is something in our long-term roadmap.
Yeah, so the universal resource scheduling on the schedule board and the manual scheduling scenarios does not support the historical traffic yet. As Feifei said, that's something on our roadmap to consider the historical traffic and predict time based on the historical traffic. But today on the maps view, you could leverage the real-time traffic icon or functionality of the Bing Maps and then see how the current traffic is. But that's pretty much limited to the Maps view. It does not reflect in the travel times that are suggested by the schedule assistant.
Awesome. Another person asked, how do we add custom constraints and objectives to RSO? So I think what this person means is, imagine I added an attribute to my resources or to my requirements. Is there a way for RSO to consider those when scheduling?
Okay, so the team has been working on customization capability for RSO. So we enable the customer scope. You can define optimization scope in a very flexible way. If you enable some customer attribute on the results, you can specify in the query condition that RSO already taken care. But in terms of scheduling constraint and objective, it's really hard to make it fully customizable. But what we have been doing is, if any constraint or objective is commonly asked across many customers and become a generic, we will try to add them into our product as out-of-box constraint, and like the one we have enabled preferred resources and skill level. And again, for long term, we are working on customer constraint and objective, but in the middle short term, we try to gather what's the most common ask constraint, but we don't have it yet. Now we will enable in the product side.
Awesome. Yeah, so to Feifei's point, the one area of configuration of customization with RSO is you can feed in resource lists and requirement lists to RSO. So what you can do is you can put flags on those lists, or basically attributes, and have them be part of that list or not be part of that list based on workflows, let's say. Looks like we have a another question here from Dion. One question, are you guys looking into multi-day scheduling for requirement groups? That's a good question. If I have a requirement group, could I also schedule that on the day's view?
We don't support it yet today, but we are looking into it. We are starting with the improvements on the single requirements for the multi-day experience, and we are going to continue to work our way into multi-day requirements as well. So that's pretty much on our roadmap.
Awesome. This is another question, and I've actually had the same question. When I load the schedule board, it'll load to the initial public view. Is there a way to force it to load to a different view?
So
maybe based on the user?
So there is no direct configuration to set a default schedule board, but based on the access rules on the boards of your schedule board, yes, you'd be able to separate out which board to load first. So there is a custom sorting order for the schedule boards, and let's say if the boards are shared with the public access and all users could access them, you could set the sorting order on the specific board and make it first board on the schedule board.
Okay. Well, yeah, we have a few more minutes here, so please, if you have any questions, definitely post them. One thing I do want to note is that we're investing heavily in our field service and URS and connected field service documentation. Those are on docs.microsoft.com, but you could see we have a vanity link for them here, aka.ms/fs. And basically, when a feature is released by Fei-Fei's team or Vinay's team, usually within 1 or 2 weeks, it'll be on docs.microsoft. And this will be more technical step-by-step documentation and version control and such like that. So we have another question here from Thomas. Any idea when you will release the overview of billable hours? All of the workers have to do 37 hours or 5 hours a week, and there's no way to show this at the moment. So do we have, when it comes to URS or field service, what are we doing to consider, maybe a utilization mark or a billable hours mark? Any thoughts there? Has anything been put into the roadmap?
I'd actually have to know more details about the question and then look into what scenario exactly he's looking for. Usually it's supported in the resource utilization view for viewing the billable hours, but then I can check with Thomas. Thomas, you could reach out to me. I'll drop my email address and we could discuss more about the scenario.
Perfect. So when you want to sort schedule board tabs, what you can do is you can actually click a schedule board tab and drag it to the left. And what that will do is that'll put the schedule board tab in the first position. And that means that whenever you load the schedule board, that particular tab will be loaded. Is that correct, Vinay?
Yes, that is correct. The sorting order is basically on the schedule board setting record, which is every board that is created on the schedule board has a configuration record, which is schedule board setting, and you'd be able to find schedule board settings from the advanced find view. So you could find the schedule board settings and then find a corresponding schedule board setting for that specific record, and you'd be able to see the sorting order for that specific board. So if you're not able to find it, we could definitely help you with it.
Perfect. So Phil Cole said that from his testing, he wasn't able to consider service territories when using the schedule assistant for multi-day resource bookings. I believe regardless of the duration of a requirement, the schedule assistant will consider the territory on that requirement, right?
That is correct. So the resource matching is currently supporting the service territories or the resource territories for that area. So the matching should still consider the territory of the resource and match them to the requirements territory that is mentioned in the requirement.
All right. So Phil, this may be a particular error on your organization that we could look into. Well, we're at the top of the hour. I put my email in the chat. If anyone has any questions that they think of after this call, please don't hesitate to email us, and I'll either answer it or I'll send it along to our experts, Feifei and Vinay. But thanks a lot for everyone for joining, and thanks a lot to Leslie and Run Studios for organizing this for us.
All right, thank you. I have added a link to a short survey in the Q&A panel. We'd greatly appreciate it if you could take a moment before logging out to access the link. We hope you found today's web conference informational and helpful. And please do let us know your feedback by providing us your responses to a few short questions. The survey scores are on a scale from 1 to 5, and 5 is the highest score possible. As a final reminder, all attendees will receive a link to the recording via email within 48 hours. Please note, this email does come from Learning, so you might check your clutter or junk folder if you don't see it in your regular old inbox. I'd like to extend a great big thank you to our presenters. Thank you very much, David, Feifei, and Vinay. And thank you, audience, for logging in and joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks everyone.